get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at peoples_pundit. And don't forget to sign up to Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. Peoplespundit.locals.com. All right. You got to forgive the little dress down Friday kind of look today. It's hot in the South. And that's how we roll. That's how we deal with it. Light colors, no top button. All right. Could be worse. Could be Joe Biden at the G7 summit. Folks, if you looked at a map, could you honestly know the difference between Libya and Syria? All right, before we get into the numbers here, I got to make some comment. Would you know the difference between... I bet you my audience would. Joe Biden was a U.S. senator for a very long time. He's been in Washington for 4 decades, and yet... he didn't know the difference between Libya and Syria. It was a great article on Red State. I know we're not allowed to talk about Joe Biden's mental state of mind. That's tough. This looks really bad. I wish the president would just stay at home. At this point, I'd rather his team shelter him like FDR than allow him to go out on the global stage and be embarrassed like this. And embarrass the rest of the nation. 60-second pauses in between sentences. One solid question, one actual question from a reporter, which was, you called Putin a killer before you met him face to face. Yeah, it was yesterday. He was meeting him today. Do you still think Vladimir Putin is a killer? That was the weakest, most cowardly answer I've ever seen from a U.S. president. And Barack Obama used to do some real serious sidestepping, folks. I would cut my left arm off to have Barack Obama back. I hand to God, I would do something very drastic at least. This is not good. What they talk about for hours and hours today? I don't know, lots of pipelines to discuss. Pipelines from Russia to Germany, pipelines from, the southern west to the Atlantic seaboard in the United States. I don't know. Or maybe Joe Biden just paused for 60 seconds every time he said a half a sentence to Vladimir Putin and not for translation. Let's play the what if game. What if that was Donald J. Trump and he spoke like that during a press conference at the G7 summit? I'm telling you, they would be calling for the 25th Amendment. They were calling for the 25th Amendment. This is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. All right, so maybe that's why Joe Biden doesn't score very high marks on foreign policy. Joe Biden's approval rating is going down. And I'd like to take a look at that real quick in case you didn't see what are the odds. It won't take me long. But the bottom line is, let's bring up his approval rating trend. And I want to get into, in the second part of this, I want to get into the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. Locals community, you've seen it already. Largely unchanged. Even slight improvement, but as they say in the economic survey world, largely unchanged. But income is what I care about. We can see the intensity shift a little bit. Some people who said neutral now say negative. So while they generally don't look that different from each other, these are back-to-back really bad readings, and we are having back-to-back really bad inflation numbers. So when you combine them both, it sucks. It's a foreboding. All right, let's look at Biden's approval. Monday, and I alluded to this on War Room last week. Monday, I said, on what are the odds? And I'm going to repeat it today. Mark this down on your calendar. This is the survey where the People's Pundit says coronavirus is no longer strong enough of an issue to hold Joe Biden at those numbers. Every single issue we poll, the economy, immigration, foreign policy, U.S.-China relations, every single one, Joe Biden has subpar approval, especially for a new president. Especially on the economy, especially for a new president, handed the biggest stimulus payments ever, repeats them, has an economy that's bouncing back before he gets in, which he stifled. He should be close to 60% on the economy. But his overall approval rating was being artificially propped up by his approval on the handling of coronavirus, most specifically the vaccine rollout. And yes, I get it, Trump supporters, he inherited it. I get it, fair enough. But that is the reality. This is the moment where that no longer is enough to hold Joe Biden in the mid-50s when every other issue is negative or underwhelming. This month, he actually improved a little bit on some other of the subcategories, on the sub-indicators, the sub-indexes, whatever you want to call them. But he fell pretty dramatically with his overall approval rating. He took a hit with independents. There isn't this large crossover, and even some Democrats were like, you know what, I don't really know what's going on here. There's a general feeling that things are getting messed up. Why was there bombing in the Middle East now? Why are there all these cyber attacks now? And, I mean, have you been following the summit? Dare I say more? Foreign policy cannot save a president, but it can kill them. It can end their presidency. All right, let's take a look at the overall trend. This is the public polling project and general big data polling since Joe Biden took office. Okay? Here we have Joe Biden starting off at 48% approval. All right. What happened here is this is the time period where Joe Biden is assuming the oath of office. The media is going nuts with their crazy polling. That's garbage. It's much garbage as like a 17-point lead for Joe Biden in Wisconsin, an 11-point lead in Pennsylvania. The same pollsters. Junk, junk, junk. The man was a 48% president when he put his hand on the Bible. The vaccine rollout comes along. He ticks up by mid-February By February 15th, he ticks up to 52%. Disapproval ticks up 1 point, really unremarkable, to 46. But nevertheless, as more people say they approve of him, it ticks up a little bit on disapproval. Then we do the public polling project, and he goes up to 54 at the end of March, and he's at 42% disapproval at the end of March. So you see some of that Republican and independent softening, and I'm telling you, it was nearly roughly 60% approval on coronavirus because of the vaccine rollout. Everything else was negative or a wash. There was no reason, none, outside of that. In early April, he actually hits 56%, though the number of disapproval holds steady. Now for this one, we see it looks like a 5 point, but it's really 4.5, because you guys know we deal in tens of percentage points. It's like 51.4, and that was 55.9. So we're really talking about a 4.5 point drop, roughly. Okay? And he falls to 51, still a majority approval, but absolutely can see clear as day, just like we can with Kamala's favorabilities we went over last week. She was falling with independents, and now she's under 50. She had a brief honeymoon because she was never really liked. She was Joe Biden's vice president. From district polling, county polling, and state level polling that we were doing for other clients outside of the public polling project, I can tell you without any hesitation, that is because in April, coronavirus was still a big deal for a lot of voters. And now it is in single digits generally everywhere. When you ask them what is the most important issue to you. And because we have the vaccination, and let me see if I can bring this up side by side here. Because we have vaccination numbers that are so close to I don't know how to say universal. We have that quarter who just aren't going to take it. But the number of those of us, the number of voters who told us they were vaccinated when this trend started was, well, actually when it got into March and April. March, really. Was 43.3%. Then it went to 61.4 in this last most recent survey. You can see that came exclusively from intent to get vaccinated. So folks, my point to you is, there is only so much you can do when you have a shrinking number like that. Of course, we're looking at a quarter who probably doesn't consider coronavirus even remotely in their top 2 or 3 issues. They are not going to get vaccinated. 61.4% over 6 in 10 have been vaccinated now. That leaves that 13.8% of people who haven't been, that have a higher level of concern about it. But maybe, if the people have been vaccinated, they're not going to view this as a major issue for them, maybe, or at least not compared, juxtaposed to 6 months ago. Juxtaposed to 6 months ago, whatever. It's a shrinking pie here. So those people, when we ask about approval, they're going to factor that in. And they're going to say to themselves, you know what? I mean, now that I'm thinking of other issues other than, COVID and how well he's doing with COVID, I somewhat or strongly disapprove. Or I don't know. I'm now from somewhat approved to either undecided or somewhat disapprove. All right, that's what's going on there. So mark it down on your calendars. This is the day. This is the time where Joe Biden's approval on COVID it became not enough. It couldn't be an issue forever. Sadly, and after everything I've seen, I have no issue saying this. It's not too cynical in my mind anymore. They need another variant. They need another deadly variant to resurrect this in the minds of voters. Otherwise, voters are going to start voting on different things. They're going to start deciding where they stand on different, more prescient issues. That's just the way it works. When Donald Trump was elected in 2016, what did he run on? ISIS was running all over the Middle East, cutting everybody's heads off, right? There was an Islamic extremist caliphate army running all over, conquering large swaths of territory in the Middle East, cutting off the heads of Western journalists, burning their infidels alive, their traitors, not infidels, burning their I forgot the word for a Muslim who's a bad Muslim who's a traitor. But anyway, burning these people alive, poor Jordanian pilots, cutting off the heads of Mr. Foley, sitting on his knees, raping and killing girls in Syria who are there to do humanitarian issues. Those poor parents, by the way, voted for Donald Trump because we're big supporters of Donald Trump. But once you come in there and you're Donald Trump and you eviscerate the caliphate, you fix the problem with the economy, you wipe away the trade deals that are hollowing out the Middle East, you handle the issues, people start to focus their attention and they focus their most important issue somewhere else. They're voting elsewhere. That is a sad reality of the American electorate. They don't remember, oh yeah, that's right, you did this. Oh yeah, that's right, we elected you to do this. They don't do it. They didn't do it for Donald Trump, and they didn't do it for others. And you have to, a successful incumbent has to run on what they're going to do in the future. Americans are forward-looking, but there's a downside to it. So that is why you see Joe Biden's approval rating fall. Speaking of the economy, let's take a look at the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index for late spring, early summer. As you can see, there's a whole lot of neutral and not a lot of positive outside how they expect, not what they think of it, how they expect the labor market to fare, and that's a 6-month outlook. Americans want to be optimistic. They want to be. Even if the reality doesn't suggest it. And you can clearly see here, current business conditions are very bad. You have about even number of people who are telling you they're good and bad, and a large neutrality. All right, generally, again, maybe a slight improvement, but not statistically significant from our last survey. Why does this matter? Because we've had so many bad reports. So what they're telling me is they're still just hopeful about the future. But right now, things are not getting any better. Again, when you have all of these stimulus, thousands and thousands of dollars given to people, how come they don't feel better? The current employment situation is even more negative. More than a third of American voters, 35%, see the actual situation as bad, as negative. I mean, basically, 2/3 of the country either see it as negative or neutral. That sucks. For those who want to know how it's done, that's an index rating of about 85 in the Consumer Confidence Index, using their methodology. If you remember, we were setting records just 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
So sad.
We were at all-time highs. We were soaring to new heights because of the tap. Anyway, expectations for expected business conditions. Again, here's where we start to see, okay, this is a 6-month outlook. But how do you expect business conditions to be? Only slightly less negative. There is this, a nice chunk of what came from neutral that went to positive. But this is their hope. We saw this 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. Or 4 months ago now. 3 months ago. Whatever, 3.5, 4 months ago. We saw this 3 months ago. It's a 6-month outlook. So here we are, 3 months later in the 6-month outlook, and it hasn't happened? So what I'm telling you is it's wishful thinking. Because this is what we've been seeing. They've been saying this. But what they're telling us along over 3 months is, yeah, that improvement, we haven't seen it yet. Employment conditions, they have high hopes for. Even though about a quarter does view the 6-month outlook for employment as bad, they still have high hopes for this. This is generally, we could almost overlap this with the survey from 3.5 months ago. We could almost overlap this explicitly. Only the future outlook looks a little bit better. Except for total family income, where you can see that optimism recede. Why is this a problem? Because we've had back-to-back terrible CPIs, consumer price indexes, which gauges inflation, the cost of consumer goods. To the second to last reading, we set a 4-month high. I mean, a 4-decade high. Excuse me. Oh my God. The last reading, we set a 3-decade high. The most recent one. And the producer price index yesterday was horrific. Why does that matter? Because if producer prices go up, employers aren't going to be raising wages, folks. That won't be happening. And if they have to pay more for goods, you are going to pay more for goods. If the builders have to pay more for raw materials, you are going to pay more to build something. If the trucking companies are going to pay more for transportation costs, you are going to pay more at the store for it. So, barring some enormous boom in income expectations, this is a serious problem. All right. And for those of you in the locals community, do me a favor, go to your spreadsheet with me for a second, okay? And if it does those drop things, albeit I'm sorry. Go to employment, okay? You will notice that those who are working full-time have a more positive outlook than those who are not. Why does that matter? Who needs a job and who doesn't? Who's in the labor force and who isn't? So when we ask people current employment conditions, and nearly 4 in 10 who are working full-time tell us they're good, but those who are part-time and unemployed, period, are 10, 15 points below that, it's a problem. We have 30% who are unemployed who have given up. That's what we're looking at right now. They just quit. Or if you were watching my Twitter feed, Mark Hemingway saying, my neighborhood in Oregonians, my neighborhood in Oregon is, they're literally begging for people to come in and work. What a massive public policy failure. Yes, it was a massive public policy failure, and indeed a very predictable one. I told you this would happen. Did I not? They're begging for people to work. This is a huge percentage of people who have just said, you know what, I've decided I'm done. I have the crosstabs up. Let me bring this down because I want to go through a few more. This was so predictable. I'm telling you, going back to the lockdown, go the tail of the tape, man. That's all I got to say. The video footage doesn't lie. This lockdown was a bad idea. Obviously, there were going to be, for political reasons, an attempt to give people a paycheck to make them stay home. Plus, there's a fear factor. Well, I can't go back to work. I may contract COVID. They're still out there. They're out there. Believe me, they're out there. Even vaccinated people. Believe me, they're out there. All right. Now, you might notice, if you go to party, that the positives are being driven by Democrats. Democrats are significantly 20 to 25 points higher on every freaking category. Locals community, go look at the crosstab by party right now. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. You got it this morning. The Consumer Sentiment Index, by the way, the survey of consumers. Or no, was it the Consumer Confidence Index? The most they have ever measured in disparities between parties pre-Obama was nil, single digits. Under Barack Obama, he started that partisan split. It was 16 points. That's already huge. A 16-point difference between partisans, that particular party, Democrats, and everyone else. Under Donald Trump, we hit record highs because Republicans and independents, their levels were so high and they were so in sync with each other. Democrats were living in another planet. They were telling the survey gatherers incorrect assessments of the economy. Let's just be real. Can we be real for a second? They were telling them negative sentiment, not because Democratic voters had it rough. They didn't under Donald Trump. They were telling them incorrect sentiment because of Trump derangement syndrome. Period. And they more than doubled Barack Obama's record for partisan disparity. Here's where we are now. Please assign either a positive, neutral, or negative rating to reflect your perception for each of the following. First category, guys, current business conditions. Less than 3 in 10 have a positive view of current business conditions. Where are Democrats? 47.4%. Where's everybody else? Independents? 22.7. 22.7. That is a 25-point disparity between Democrats and nonpartisans. Whereas Republicans? Below independents, but closer, 16.4. A 6% disparity. That's it. Very normal, by the way. That is historically very normal. Meaning, Democrats are living in another universe. Another reality.
Weren't we just talking about that?
Go look. There's no explanation if this is a partisan view. Now, it is true if you're a government worker or you are a very low-class Democratic voter, maybe you would say positive. Maybe you would. But not by this much, folks. They do take care of their own, that's true. But this is driven largely. The disparity is not... There is no socioeconomic explanation for this. I could see 10 points. I could see that. I cannot see 25 points. That is a partisan response. Despite the prompt. It is important that you are honest. It is important. We need your answers to be accurate. Please be honest. They don't care. Does it work on some? I'm sure it does. Please assign either a positive or neutral or negative rating to reflect your perception for each of the following. Again, we're moving on. Current employment conditions. Are you ready? 32.7%, roughly a third of the country, that's it, have a positive view of the current job market. Oh my God. We committed national economic suicide. We did this to ourselves. After record. Laura, do you remember the reporting at PPD? Every day was a record. It started to feel like every day there was a record we had to report. The Dow hits... Jobless claims are this low. Insured unemployment's a new low. Consumer confidence hits a new high. Consumer sentiment hits a new high. The National Federation of Independent Business Small Survey, Small Business Optimism Index, new high. The National Manufacturers Association, new high. New Orders Index in the PMI by the Institute for Supply Management, new high. New home sales, new high. New residential construction, new highs. Housing starts, building permits in that group, new highs. It was like every day. And we smashed multiple records for the same indicator. We said it, we smashed it again 2 months later. Said it, break it again a month later. I mean,
well, everything you need to know about the success of
predecessor
is by
he's a
looking
cheerleader.
at...
He's a cheerleader for America. That's what made it. That's all you need to be. That's the secret sauce. That was the secret sauce.
What I'm just saying, though, is that you could see truly where we were succeeding. And then all of a sudden, when he's no longer president, you see the true failures coming through from...
Well, it was even in that duration when the president, when the presidency, let's be real, when the presidency was not, look, you may not like it, but it's true. There is the largest percentage ever in this country right now who think we legitimately have an illegitimate president. Whether you want to believe that or not, or that's a strike on the community or not, whatever. That's the reality. I deal in realities. There are people who still don't believe this election was won. By the way, Crappy Burger, where are my scanned ballots you promised us?
Yeah.
Now you can't find chain of custody for all those drop boxes? No kidding, Laura. So surprised. 4.5 months ago, you called people like us liars and conspiracy theorists. So let me ask you a question, Crappy Burger. When you said that your state conducted the most secure election and there were no problems, were you a freaking liar? Are you a lying little dirtbag like we all know you are?
Yes.
With your scumbag right-hand man who was all over Facebook saying, wouldn't it be great if we could do anything to stop Donald Trump from winning Georgia? That's so incriminating. If this was a criminal case, that's indictable right there. No evidence. If this wasn't a YouTube family show, I'd stand up right now and moon the camera. Just for you, Crappy Burger. Get my ballots, you scumbag fraud. Now you're going to investigate it. You turd. After all those appearances on CNN. Why am I so angry? Because this is what you did to us. With your lies. And your corruption. I can't wait till Vernon Jones throws you on your
rear end. But
I can't wait for it. I don't care if you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're that much of a scumbag, you don't deserve to hold public office. I can't wait for Vernon to stomp you into the ground. It's going to be great.
It'll be most epic.
As long as they run that campaign properly.
Mm-hmm. I'll pop the popcorn.
32.7%. Okay, let's see where that 32.7% of the country who thinks we're having such a great job market, which is a nil number, Laura. That's a nil number. You understand? That was over two times as much under Donald Trump. Let's see. 48.7% of them, Democrats, positive outlook. That's what's positive. 48.7% of Democrats told us they have a positive view of the current employment condition, the job market. What about independents? About a quarter, a little over a quarter. It's a 20-point margin. Actually, 21. 21-point disparity. You know how much the disparity is between Republicans and independents? 7 points. Because only 20% of Republicans, 19.8%, have a positive view of the labor market. And by the way, people ask us sometimes why it takes so long to process this data. And I even think this is probably too high. Mm-hmm. And I think our approval rating for Joe Biden is too high.
I think
we have talked about
47.
This. There are some records where we question whether or not we spoke to the person on record. Mm-hmm. There were some we flatly caught. There's straight line. There's a phenomena of certain urban minorities pretending they're Republicans when they take surveys. Yet strongly approving across the board, picking every liberal position across the board, and then they think they're funny and they call themselves a conservative who lives in, and is a Republican. An 18 to 29-year-old African American female, for instance. All right, and we know that's not true, of course, but we can't. It is true, and just to be clear and honest here, it is not always the case where we can look. There are some where inference on the voter analysis. Sometimes, if an inference is strong, we know they're full of crap. All right. However, sometimes it's not very strong, and sometimes it's not possible to begin with. So when I tell you I think these people are full of crap, it means that the number's probably inflated a little bit. I think Biden's real, 51 is about what, his share of the vote or his share of the recorded vote. I think he's probably at 49 or 50, maybe just a hair lower. But I think we account for some of that. Like with this number with Republicans right now, it's probably like 70. Like that. I'm just saying, I'm just being honest with you. Yeah, I'm the only honest pollster who will tell you that you really can't catch all of this. No. You just can't.
Even the ones that are somewhat questionable,
we certainly do better.
We still add them.
Yeah, you can't exclude them. We don't do what others.
Yeah,
we don't do what some others do. You cannot exclude them. They have got to be included in the result. You can't just say, "Oh, I think this," and change it. That's not legit. And I know some people have done and have better records than the media and university pollsters, because they are looking for certain indicators and then they're like full of crap, and this will count towards this. We don't really do that. I'm on the line when it comes to removing certain answers, and that's what we'll do. So if we think that a response is just dirty, it's just not good data collection, and we have a thing, by the way, that runs through responses that flag them for us. It's automated. It's machine learning, baby. I love machine learning. It has made my life since 2016. Well, remember 2016?
Yeah, I know.
I'm a hand math guy.
Yes.
That's what always would take me. So I'm a hand math guy. And the tools just got better and better over the years. And a lot of the people we work with, they wanted to, because what happened in 16, our record, they wanted to please us. So they would say, "What do you need?" And I'd be like, it'd be great if I had it would be great if I had a JavaScript program that checked my math on the weight variables. That's subjected to human error quite a bit. Yeah, it would be great, perhaps, if we had basically a data quality control program. That's what it is. And it flags certain responses. And if I really think it's bad to the point where you cannot ascertain the intent, going back to the hanging chads of Miami-Dade, if it's so bad you really can't ascertain true intent, it just gets junked. And we go and we collect another response from that demographic. That's the way it works over here. All right?
Sandy wants to know that would be interested in how you will address machine learning flagging responses that may represent a large-scale shift in social outlook. Example, if the training set just becomes too different. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of other indicators that look at social behavior. So we would, or at least, in a perfect world, we would have those other data attributes that, kind of track other people's decisions to act different ways or consume different things and to look and view different sources of information. So in a perfect world, we'd have other pieces of the puzzle to try to follow that transformation. If that makes sense. Does that make sense, Sandy? In a perfect world. Now, it doesn't always happen, although it happens more often than you think, to the point where I'm telling you, if you guys remember that one episode of What Are the Odds, when I tell you we have, I went through it. All sorts of personal information that you really don't want me to have. Now, the good news for you is I don't go ever and look at individuals and do this. That's just not how it works. All right? And it's just not how it works. Now, do we look at individual records? Yeah, but a name doesn't really mean anything to me. Everybody is, frankly, assigned an API ID. And I'm telling you, for millions, plus million, it's really 200 plus million, but there's not that many on the voter file, not real records anyway. Roughly, I would say 165 tops could be legitimate, Laura. I really do believe that. That's why all of that talk about it being that turnout was crazy. Mm-hmm. Because there aren't that many legitimate records. But anyway, all of them have a unique API ID. So it can interface with other programs, right? Or if you have an online panel provider and they are linked up with that same database, which they should be, it's the best database in the country, then everyone knows. They don't have to go look for a name, first name, last name, middle initial, date of birth, street address. They don't have to query these giant tables, and my IT guys, you know what I'm talking about. They don't have to, scan these databases for multiple rows or multiple columns of information to match. They match based on the API ID, which is yet another reason why Whitmer and all of them were Fulton County, Maricopa, they were all so full of crap. Mm-hmm. They were all so full of crap. Because, first of all, how Matt Brainerd matched those IDs, matched those names and addresses on record. Folks, it isn't possible. It isn't possible to overlook, well, that guy may have a similar name. That was his nephew. Remember that one or whatever? Oh, yeah. Load of crap. We caught those records, and we tossed them. It is impossible not really to catch them. Not if you do a thorough. You may have the same name, but you sure as hell don't have the same date of birth. And you sure as hell don't live at the same street, house address.
Or you may have the same date of birth, but you sure as heck don't have the same last four.
Give me a freaking break.
Give
me a freaking break.
Your
right.
last four don't match. Sorry.
All right, now let's get, interestingly, to expectations, where I tell you that it's like Americans want to be more. You will see. Locals community, peoplespundit.locals.com. If you're not looking at the spreadsheet I sent you right now, crossing it by party, you got to. I'll even wait a second here for you all to do it. If you thought that the disparities in positive outlook were big for current conditions, wait till you see the disparities with expectations. This is why I said it's even, because the disparity is even worse this month. So what I'm telling you is it's fake. What looks like improvement is fake. It's partisan wishful thinking. It's not good. The reading is not good. All right. Expectations for business conditions. So we have the very first current 29.5%, with Democrats being 20 plus points different than everybody else, having a positive outlook on the current conditions. Here's the expectation for better conditions in the future. The 6-month outlook goes up to 42%. They have a positive outlook. However, where's that coming from? A 23-point difference between independents and Democrats, and a 40-point difference between Democrats and Republicans. Only 22% of Republicans and only 38% of independents have a positive view of the 6-month outlook for business conditions. 63% of Democrats do.
Tell me why.
Again, I live on an alternate reality, on an alternate plane of existence.
With my rose-colored
disparity.
glasses.
It's beyond rose-colored glasses. It's beyond, Laura. It's like, it's Bifrost stuff. I took a Bifrost to another realm, man. I'm no longer in Midgard. You understand? I have traveled to Asgard now. This is crazy, man. This is not normal to have this big of a difference. You have a 16-point difference between independents and Democrats. You have a 25 almost point difference between independents. 6-point difference between Republicans and independents. And you have 25-point differences between Democrats and independents. You have a 40-point difference between Democrats and Republicans. I mean, this is nuts.
It's creepy.
It's creepy. It's scary. It's scary
it's
that
very...
it's scary. Are you ready? What about employment conditions? The 6-month outlook for employment conditions. Oh, that looks great, Rich. 46% have a positive outlook. Yeah, except only a quarter are Republicans. Where are Democrats? 68%. A 43-point disparity. Folks, I mean, I really urge you to look at the historical data on this when you get a chance. Don't just take my word for it. Actually, on both. Because Curtin did this too. The survey of consumers and the Consumer Confidence Index, which I hope doesn't cost you money. It may. We get it. I don't know if it'll cost you money to look at. So if it does cost money to look at, we'll go over it with you.
And share this.
Yeah, and share it with you. Yeah, in another episode. Maybe we'll do it on Freewheeling Friday. We don't see disparities in partisanship like this. With the Consumer Confidence Index, it dates back to 1985. With the Consumer Sentiment Index, it dates back long before that, although it's spotty. It wasn't monthly, and it didn't have readings for sub-indexes every year, every reading. They didn't do that. In the 70s, I believe, they started to give consistent readings monthly plus those current and expected. All right? Mm-hmm. All right. So clearly, the hope for a better job market is kind of there. It's there for everybody. Because 16% of Republicans say the job market is good now. That's it. 25% are hoping for a better one in 6 months, meaning they tell us they have a positive view on the 6-month outlook. Not, I say they're hoping because I'm telling you, it's not based on any evidence or what they're seeing right now. They just have a positive view. So everybody across the board, even with independents, 41% of independents have a positive view of the 6-month outlook for jobs, while only 21% have a positive view of now. All right? So you can see that's pretty much across the board. All right? But Democrats are fueling this ridiculous difference. Even Democrats who have a positive view are 20 points higher than Democrats who now say things are good in the job market. So they're disproportionately excited for the 6-month future in and of itself. I mean, even from among themselves.
I just don't get it.
Because you only have few point increases for the others. You have these giant leaps with Democrats from themselves, separating how they view today versus how they'll view 6 months from now. And then you have these ridiculous margins between them and everyone else.
That goes to show you how out of touch they are. I can't with you.
All right, moving expectations for total family income. We don't ask current. Why? Because that's the way the CCI has been. CCI has been done for a long time, and we were just trying to mirror the CCI, but doing it only for registered voters. Because why is that? Why did I get this idea? By the way, because there's predictive value in the CCI. There's predictive value in a lot of these surveys if you know the sub-indexes to look at and what you're looking for. They're actually very accurate for predicting voting behavior. However, this year, again, it didn't hold up to its usual. And it's not 100%, but it is predictive, right? More likely than not. So I was thinking maybe we should drill it down, right? Maybe we should drill it down into registered voters. And would there be any way to separate that in the CCI? And unfortunately, there's not. So I decided we're going to do it. And you guys have been, guys, I got to be like honest with you here. What we're doing here is incredible. It is something so different than what anybody else has ever tried to do. Because of you, because of our community, you're making it possible. Right? Your support, your contributions, your sharing, your thoughts, your prayers, your whatever. Whatever it is that you do to support us, this is working. Others have tried this before, and it failed. It didn't work. In Europe, there are some examples of other areas where it's publicly funded, but not in the United States. So this is a first. And because we have that freedom, we're able to look at where other areas of the industry where it's deficient. What are they not asking? What is the crux of this question? What is the crux of this issue? What could be the difference between who really cares how everyone feels about this? Why not just these people, these voters? What's predictive and what's not? Is anybody asking how comfortable people are, telling them, being honest about their political views? We are the only ones consistently tracking multiple social desirability indicators. I truly believe that the research we're doing here with the public polling project is going to revolutionize the polling industry. Mm-hmm. I truly, truly believe it.
It's going to push them to tell the truth for once.
Yeah, and not even just to be open.
Stupid.
Just to be more right. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately the effect it's going to have. Laura's 100% right. They're either going to be transparent and more accurate, or they're just going to look stupid. The more we gain steam, the bigger our community gets. And by the way, our locals community grew immensely last week. And we love you all for it. And thank you for your faith. The bigger we get, the dumber they're going to look. And accuracy, I believe, of course it matters. Accuracy matters. I've been saying that for years. Accuracy matters. It's actually a slogan for a long time. Mm-hmm. And it still is on the website. Yeah, it sure is. Accuracy matters. But transparency matters too. And this is just unacceptable. How the media and university polls. You look at a press release from Monmouth University. It's just totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Others like Marquette have tried to do better and have done better, but their methodologies are flawed. But at least you know that because they were transparent about what they did and who they called and where they reached and what mode they used, what days they tracked, consistently favoring professional class Metroites. All right.
Sorry.
It's almost break time, so
I just want to say, I was speaking on Facebook. Somebody chimed in and told me inflation is because of summer. And so I'm discussing this on our locals.
Well, folks, I got to tell you, if it was inflation because of summer, then it wouldn't be a 4-decade high. Folks, use your damn heads. All right?
But they swore they weren't liberal.
Gasoline does go up during the summer because of supply and demand. It always does. But if this was an average inflation, then it would not be setting records since, the Carter era. Okay? That's ridiculous. All right?
Yeah, it was special.
All right? You would see those levels and those gains every year, but you don't. You would see lumber has quadrupled.
But that's because of summer.
And it wasn't, and the tariffs, everything, and it started to rise before the summer.
I don't know.
All of these goods started to rise long before the summer. And in fact, the worst game was April so far. So your hypotheses doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold up to scrutiny. And then also, no, because it's serious. I understand a lot of people get bad information. And I just want them to, I don't want to make anybody, don't insult anybody. That's good to point out.
No, Facebook. This was Facebook.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's good to point out, because people get a lot of bad information. And it's hard to cut through the crap. It's really hard to cut through the crap. And unfortunately, they're targeting shows like ours to do so. Mm. You know what I mean? You know what? I'm probably going to save income for after the break.
Yeah.
All right. I do want to bring this up, however. Without a doubt, if Donald Trump was still president, you wouldn't see these inflation numbers.
I can promise you.
I get it, guaranteed.
I can guarantee it.
And the reason is this. Inflation is being, along with all of the other issues and spending trillions of dollars, there are underlying issues of causing inflation. But the COVID lockdown, which was stupid, ahistorical, and probably the biggest domestic policy failure in our history, and yes, I mean that, in our history, because we were about to become the unrivaled economic hegemonic power, because we were crippling China, our number one greatest threat, which even you voters recognize. We were about to cripple them, put them on their knees, renegotiate all these deals.
It was going to be beautiful.
Their manufacturing sector was shrinking by double digits every quarter. They were getting crushed. Trump was crushing them. They had no choice to come to the table, and if Donald Trump was reelected, it would have been their worst nightmare and the end to them. Yep. Or not the end, but I mean the end of their economic challenge to us. That would have been it. Now they're winning that challenge. Anyway, businesses make decisions and people make decisions based on how they anticipate things. Inflation, obviously. The cost of goods can go up as there's a greater demand and less supply. Duh. The shutdown caused a bottleneck in the supply chain, in the supply line, which, as I told people at the time, including my former co-host, you cannot turn supply chains and supply lines on and off like a freaking light switch. It doesn't work like that. You will cause a bottleneck, and without the right, and I mean perfect, public policy, which we were never going to get because Democrats were always going to try to capitalize and score political points. That's who they are. Without perfect public policy, that bottleneck would be long. Then when Joe Biden wins the election, when the election's in doubt for like 2 months, with that, it was, get over it. It was, for 2 months, people who are businesses, people who are manufacturers, people who are suppliers, people who transport, they were telling us, I don't really know how things are going to go. I don't know what policy we're going to live under. I'm kind of holding my ammunition. And especially once that, it was resolved, Joe Biden took the oath of office, they clammed up. And that supply line is not racing to get filled again. So people are not going, folks, to, I use this example all the time, but it's a good one. People are not going to race to get lumber to fulfill a contract they quoted 6 months ago or 12 months ago, when now the cost of lumber is 4 times higher.
Quadruple,
and we can go over this with myriad examples. That's not going to happen. So some of this is supply and demand from the shutdown, but it has lingered because of the expectations of how government policy is going to be. And by the way, they're clearly right now, aren't they? They were clearly right now, weren't they? Joe Biden wants to put economic restrictions, and he's touted as much to the world community, and is right now, has been all week. They want to put restrictions on the world community that China and India have already stated publicly they will not abide by. So if you're energy, if you're lumber, if you're steel, if you're any of this, you are not going to produce the supply that you would have produced under Donald Trump, which we know happened. We know that happened. Even with tariffs. You're not going to do it. So there will be a continued bottleneck of lessening supply, and the cost of goods will continue to rise because demand is higher. I mean, really, it's not hard. There's so much misinformation out there, but basic economics is not really that hard. It's when you get into the minutia of how policies can affect behavior and stuff. That is a little bit more difficult to understand, and if it wasn't, then a certain party would never win any elections because it's very clear. I mean, go look for a liberal, I'm serious, outside of left-wing colleges. Now you can, because colleges have gotten so left-wing, but years ago when I was in academia, you couldn't find a left-wing economist. An economics professor was left-wing. You couldn't find one. They didn't exist. You'll find them in poli-sci. You'll find them in, their math class. You'll find them in science. You'll find them everywhere else. You would not find them in economics or a foreign policy. Foreign policy staff and economic staffs were, at the very least, I wouldn't say Republican because a lot of them hated the Republican Party too because they were, at least our staff.
Actually.
Yeah, they were just more independent. Because Republicans were like outside of Reagan, they were just total frauds. Yeah. So, and then as far as foreign policy goes, they're even worse than some liberal internationalists. Yeah. When you're a realist, you absolutely loathe the Republican Party because they're warmongers. Yeah. No bueno. Jack Snyder, Myths of Empire. Did you guys read it since I told you about it last week? All right, let's take that quick break. When we come back, we'll do expectations of total family income, which will blow your socks off. Locals community, you have that. peoplespundit.locals.com. Get it up, get it ready. When we come back from the break, we're going to show it to you. And I think the disparity is obviously still huge, but there's one thing that's so important that I want to note. All right? We'll be back in, well, first of all, you're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, and I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. If you like this video, go ahead and like it, give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel, People's Pundit Daily. Hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we go live. This way you won't miss one of my marvelous ranting cold opens. If you want to be part of the Big Data Poll public polling project, you can donate when you do leave us a comment. BigDataPoll. I think we're fully funded for this. I did it anyway. I pulled the trigger before we were totally. But somebody, I think we are fully funded. And I haven't I haven't put a new one up yet. Listen, if it's anywhere around $1,800 shy of the target, we are fully funded. I mean, you could still give and I'll put it towards the other one. Yeah, no, but just to let you know, it means we are. Because we had $1,800 rolled over from the prior project. All right, just remember that. I just wanted to be clear on that. No, we're there. Always transparent. Always transparent. That's why we got that plug-in. Yeah. That's so cool. This way I don't have to every Friday go over Stripe and go over PayPal and Venmo. You guys just see what's going on. Yeah, you just get to see what's going on. But if you want to be a part of it, donations too, when you can be anonymous and still leave us a comment and we will see it. Yeah. So if you contribute and you have a suggestion, we love them. Yeah. If you have a suggestion, question, theme, general direction, anything, go ahead and throw it in there. Now, if you want to be part of the discussion, though, of what makes it into these surveys and what does not, then that's the locals community. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. You did that good. You should start doing our commercial breaks, man. Of course. Your voice is much better than mine. Yeah, okay. All right? No, man, you know what I'm talking about. Says the man who married
me for 15 years.
All right, no, it's true. You got a good voice. You got a cute, it's like a sultry, but like,
Listen to him. People want a coffee. Let's go. All
right, I want a coffee too.
Yeah, me three.
Can you do me three? All right, cool. All right, we'll be back in about a minute and a half. All right? All the best.
No, not all the best.
Minute and a half. Don't go nowhere. God. We will return.
You wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
That's the Bowen Band, and we thank them from the bottom of our heart for that theme song, and for the theme song to What Are the Odds? That's Highway. That's Bad Habit. What Are the Odds is Highway. Bad Habit, Highway. All right? Both fantastic songs by a fantastic band. And yes, he was in that Zoom call for a hot minute, and then skipped out. Probably employer situation. Conflict. You know? There are a few industries that don't take kindly to not being of the hive mind. And I would say the entertainment industry is certainly one of them. You know, as a sidebar before we get into this, while Laura gets the cafe, I have was a friend, you know. And basically, I want to give him away, but he was just an average guy who did something and then became big because he did it. And became a star, and then got put on reality shows, and later became, you know, a model. Great looking guy. I mean, he's good, really good looking guy. And you know, women loved him. That's what he did had to do with that. I'll just say that. But in any event, as he became bigger, and as they began to book him on these shows, these reality TV shows, and some other mainstream stuff, and he got into an acting career, he wasn't allowed to associate with me publicly. And I was on that dweeb who played that little dweeb in Stand By Me. Wheaton, what's his name? Weakling, Will Weakling, what's his name? Anyway, they have this circulating list in Hollywood of like people to block on social media and not associate with, or it will get you flagged. And I ended up on that list. I don't know how, but I did. And it was ridiculous. And here we are at kids' birthday parties, and you know, our kids like are invited to his kids' birthday parties. His kids are invited to our kids' birthday parties, and we can't take photos together at the party. We can't be in the same slide. We can't be in the same frame as each other. It's outrageous. Outrageous. But anyway, I respected it. You know, and actually he was like, you know, screw it. I don't care what they tell me. I don't care what my manager tells me. I don't care what my PR people tell me. Screw it. And I said, no, you know what? You know what? Let me do this for you. You made a big career change, and I don't want anything to happen because of me. But that's total, you know what, is bull. It's total bull. And I admire him for saying, you know, screw it, and attempting to, you know, take it. But I mean, I'm not, you know, I wasn't gonna let him do it. All right, let's bring up the overall image again. Oh, thank you, honey. Let's bring up the overall image again for the people who don't have the crosstabs available to them. The locals community, again, if you're watching, you're on locals. There's like a post or two before the show, or a post or two after the show. I'm not sure, but it's there. Okay, it'll show you an image of it's the post with a big image of an American flag. It says economy in the middle of the American flag, and then below that is an image of the crosstab, which is taken from Google Sheets, which I didn't know would happen, which is why I uploaded an image to go with it. So there's dual images. I didn't know that locals would automatically take meta information and show a preview image of the Google Sheet, which is very cool, and I know that moving forward. All right, but that's the one. All right, so, and by the way, Laura, I'm able to look at my browser and my crosstabs just fine. So this is working. We've been testing some new stuff every day, every week. It gets a little better without any disruptions. All right, so anyway, looking at the stacked bar chart here, it looks better than it really is. Okay, so you have only 24.1% who told us they have a negative outlook of this negative 6-month outlook for total family income. Positive, when it did fall from employment conditions and business conditions, which is telling. 37.2%, which is not good, had a positive outlook on total family income, and 38.7% were neutral. Now, remember the disparities between Democrats and the rest of the world. Me whistling the X-Files because this is not rose-colored glasses, like, go using Laura's example. This isn't the same thing as rose-colored glasses. This is like alternate plane stuff, okay? Like, you're no longer in Midgard, you're in Asgard, and everybody else is in Midgard, okay? Still, Democrats, who 63% of them told us they have a positive view of the business conditions 6-month outlook, 68%, I'm rounding, told us they had a positive view on the 6-month outlook for employment conditions, the labor market. Only 55% of Democrats told us they have a positive view on on the outlook for total family income. All right, that's a pretty significant decline even among Democrats, even though it's still a big disparity between them and everybody else. Like, for instance, Republicans only declined from the job market outlook from 25 to 23 on total family income. Independents, they declined from 42% positive outlook on the job market to 32% in total family income. Democrats declined about 13 points. Okay, so it's a bigger dip than the rest of the groups, but yet they still are significantly more positive and partisan driven. Okay, that's how significant it is. This is scaring me. This is scaring me. It's scaring me. How about we push that forward and you could put that? Oh, you're scaring me, love. You really are. How about we leave that there,
I just move this
and that stays there? Okay, that's terrifying me. I'm a man of no spills. Okay.
It's called OCD, guys.
Yeah, a little bit. Dad, if you're listening, if you're watching, Dad, you did this to me, Father.
Dad. Thanks.
Remember Sanjay and Craig? Look what I become, Father. This would be a show I used to love to watch with my son. It was about this boy. It was a dweeb with a snake who could talk. It was a great show. And it had a lot of stuff in there for adults who are watching cartoons with their kids when they're little. Now, a lot of stuff to keep you interested. Disney in general, Nickelodeon in general, Laura and I were talking about this. They were so busy hating Donald Trump for 4 years, they have no good new material. Yeah. When our kids were young, they had all of these fantastic shows that were really creative and had these multicultural. Like Phineas and Ferb, right? Remember that? Mm-hmm. They were handy. They built things. They taught motivation, right? And ingenuity, but also great content for adults and kids, both. Gravity Falls. A fantastic show. All right. They have nothing like that now. They completely sap their creativity. TDS saps creativity. Anyway, now back to Democrats. I digress. 55% again told us they have a positive outlook for total family income. That is, folks, 23 points higher than independents. And third parties. When I say independents and that when we're looking at this, it's independent other category. All right. So third party voters even. Why is that important? Supposedly, third party voters threw a couple battleground states to Joe Biden. I would disagree on many of that. I would cite our records and research to do so, but I digress. Anyway, these voters he needs. All right. Democrats, they need them. They don't have them right now. Only 25% of Republicans had a positive view of the labor market. That is, again, a 33-point difference. 23-point difference among independents, 33-point difference among Republicans. Democrats are living, again, in an alternate reality, and they are boosting these numbers. So that's why when I told you, there are some that even slightly improved. If it was an employment situation report, which is the monthly jobs report, it's called the employment situation. It's a household survey. Others that do these household surveys for the Census and Commerce Department and Bureau of Labor Statistics and Bureau of Economic Analysis, all government data, household survey, government data. they would say this is largely unchanged from the prior. However, when you look inside the numbers, you can see the situation is getting worse. All we're seeing are more Democrats living in another reality, while the rest of the country is getting sour, or has remained sour on the economic outlook. It's not good. It is not good. And I got to tell you, since we've been tracking this now over almost 4 months, these negative sentiments were there before we got some of the really bad economic data, underwhelming jobs reports. The jobless claim numbers yesterday were abysmal. They were pathetic. Okay? Last Thursday, excuse me. It was like decline of 7,000 or 9,000. They could easily be revised to nothing on Thursday this week, tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe they're a little bit better. I hope they are. Because unlike a partisan, I hope for economic prosperity for everybody, and I don't give a damn who's in the White House when it happens. Mm-hmm. These numbers are people. These numbers are people with children and wives and parents and friends and communities and coworkers and neighbors and church members. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hold on. Stop the press.
What happened?
No way my man's in.
Well, you gotta wait for his announcement.
He's out. It's on Fox. Joey Gilbert is running for governor in Nevada. Look at how they try to paint him immediately. Right-wing boxer. I will be open and transparent with you. I have spoken with Joey a couple of times. And he called me and he wanted my assessment. And I told him, look, this guy has like big name fighters who want to tour Clark County with him. I have spoken with Democratic sheriffs in the state. They want Joey to run so bad. And he's from Washoe County. And we all know from our voter analysis in Nevada, because Joey just announced we're going over voter analysis on Friday. I will put it up later today.
And I quote, let me say this. If election integrity is not number one issue of these guys running, then they're either lost, confused, or too stupid to be running. He said, referencing other Republicans who intend to run.
That came right out my mouth. Just kidding, Joey. He gets it. No, he gets it. Because he was concerned that the integrity is so bad that they could take it, you know? Mm-hmm. And, I mean, but he gets it. He understands that this has to be fixed. This is what we talked about. This has to be fixed at the state level. So unless Republicans start running out of the box people, when you have Floyd Mayweather who want to run around Clark County for you and tell everybody in Las Vegas to vote for you, it's probably a good idea to run. You understand what I'm saying?
Just a little bit. It's about time, Joey.
He's got all of these MMA fighters who told me they would storm Clark County for him. They would do, they love this guy. All right. His face is, we call it the billboard effect. We've seen it in Florida. Rick Perry, a great example. A lawyer. I'm not going to say his name, but a personal injury attorney turned state legislator. All right. There's this like billboard effect where if you're well liked and you're viewed to be like, he's an attorney, he's all over Washoe County, his face is all over Washoe County, and people like him a lot. They see him as, and we spoke to Democratic small business owners who said when the shutdown happened their business was being crushed, and the only one who would listen to them was Joey Gilbert, and the only one who would fight for them is Joey Gilbert. This woman, she's a restaurant owner, and she is Hispanic, and she loves this guy. She was just, with her, I'm not going to do a Hispanic accent, Laura will slap me, but but she was so cute. She was so adorable, and she was saying, this guy runs, this guy's got to run for governor. He was the only one who was there for us. This is a Democrat. This woman is a Democrat, has voted for Hillary Clinton, voted for Joe Biden. she will vote for Joey Gilbert in Washoe County. Without the tightening of that margin in Washoe County, Republicans have a very difficult chance of winning statewide. Even if they tighten Clark like Donald Trump did. Donald Trump did extremely well with Hispanics in Nevada. And I would think, now that I'm starting, and I don't want to say anything that I'm going to regret, but we are starting to look at some of the evidence that was presented to us by others in Nevada. And, that was the Wild West out there, especially in Clark County. They got, by they, I mean Democrats. I'm doing better with that. They got all of their wish list COVID reforms. And they got the taxpayer to pay for ballot harvests. Ballot harvesting is illegal in the state of Nevada. Yet they just decided to ignore that law for this time. Chain of custody issues were enormous problems. We called a lot of people, folks, who did not request an absentee ballot, but Nevada sent them out anyway. Somehow their ballot was submitted. And they swear that they didn't do it.
Daily Beast already did an early hit piece on him.
Daily Beast already did. Yeah, there is
Joey,
material.
Ready? First, Joey was a Capitol rioter. Now he wants to be governor of Nevada.
That's how they're going to try to do it. They're going to come at him with everything because they're terrified of him. Mm-hmm. They're terrified of him.
Perfect.
They're absolutely terrified of Joey, without a doubt. Now, there is something, and all you can do is warn somebody. You got to put the right people around you. Mm-hmm. You have got to put the right people around you. Look, right now, there's already the knives are out. Mm-hmm. You got to race to define your campaign before the media defines it. This is unfortunate, but it's true. The media is not media. I'm with Molly 100% on this. They're propagandists, and they're the propaganda wing of the Democratic Party. The Republican Party doesn't have a propaganda wing. Fox News is not even fully Republican. That's number one. They're damn sure not conservative. And they aren't enough. Yeah. They're, it's not just about viewership, folks. It's about everywhere you turn kind of thing. And if every time someone turns on their iPhone, they get push notifications from a left-wing media source, because that's what Apple does. If every time they turn on their Samsung, their Android, because that's what Android does, they see a push notification from a left-wing outlet, they're being inundated by propaganda.
Pretty much.
It's not enough for them to maybe briefly hear a segment on Fox News later in the day. That's just not, it's not the case. People are easily, I don't want to, duped. Yeah. There's a certain segment of the population. Some are easily duped. They want to be duped. And then others, it's just because of what I call rational ignorance in our virtuous republic. You're not stupid. It's not that the voters are dumb. They're too busy.
It's just misinformation.
It's so much misinformation being thrown at you. Right. Which is why the founders did not want us to elect our own senators, by the way, or president. You elect the people in your community closest to you, and then it's their job to protect you and look out for your interests. And if they don't, you get rid of them. That's it. All right. So I just wanted to be open and transparent about that. Yeah. I did tell him to run, and I did tell him they're going to come after him with everything. Mm-hmm. And there's, we talked extensively. There's material where the propagandists will go after as a just general playbook. You're very typical attack a Republican because of this. He isn't, he's a younger guy. He was a fighter before he was a lawyer. Mixed martial arts, boxing. He was not prepping in Skull and Bones to be a fake presidential character. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He's an everyday guy.
Oh, really?
If you handle it correctly, that's the way you can portray that. Because a regular Republican cannot win Nevada anymore. It's just not possible.
But he's got this.
It's Washoe County. Well, it's a fight. It's going to be a fight. Yeah. Washoe County has to be shrunk. The margin for a Republican has to be shrunk in Washoe County. He is very well known in Washoe County, and he is very well liked. Mm-hmm. And the people we talk to, Again, Democratic sheriffs. Like, our entire police department will vote for this guy. Our entire sheriff's office. Every deputy in this place is going to vote for this guy if he runs. I'm not kidding. And I think the media, you see them coming out like this, Laura, because they're terrified of this guy.
They are. They're already trying anything.
They're trying to end the campaign before it goes out. Yep. They're going after him with a vengeance.
Yes, they are. That's when you know a campaign is scary.
Yeah, they wouldn't be doing this to Joey Gilbert if they weren't scared of him. It's that simple. But they don't waste their effort and energy on you unless they're terrified of you. They're terrified of him. When he's walking around, with all these, there are people in Nevada that are looked up to. And they love this guy. Mm-hmm. If they go out with him, and parade around and campaign hard for him, it's a problem. It's a problem. Especially since he positioned himself as anti-lockdown. The media knows, folks, despite their fake polls, and they are fake. I'm with Laura now on this. I mean, it's not that they're totally fake. It's just at this point, if you don't know you're doing something wrong and you have a methodological problem, then really you have a ethical problem. Because you know your results stink over and over and over again. You know you have a methodological issue, yet you refuse to change it, adjust, evolve, to become more accurate, to become more transparent. Then I can only conclude that you were doing this on purpose because of some ideological motivation. Or maybe your employer wants you to come up with that result, so you're doing it on purpose. Either way, that is not a real poll. That is a fake poll. That is an illegitimate result.
You can call Rich Barris, and he will help you.
Lord. I will. Help. I absolutely will explain to you what you were doing wrong. I have done this before with many pollsters, in-house pollsters for companies, in-house pollsters for other organizations. I absolutely will do everything I can to help because I want the industry to succeed. I'm not worried about where my next meal is coming. So I'm not like one of those guys where you call and I'll ask you for money. Now, I mean, if you're asking me to do the work for you, it's a totally different story. I will explain to you, though, what you're doing wrong once I look and review over your methodology, if you're honest with me. I will tell you what's going on. And I've done it. I field those calls all the time. There is no reason for these other guys not to acknowledge these issues, to keep pumping out this garbage. And like I said, it is garbage. So when you see the garbage tell you that Americans agreed with this lockdown and they're full of crap. Life. The lockdown went down in flames in Pennsylvania. You can't win a 4-point margin in Pennsylvania with just Republican votes. Yes, Republicans outvoted Democrats again, but look at where it was. It was everywhere. The reason why we knew that race was going to be called, I was so confident. People were like, oh, they're still counting votes. Remember what happened in November? It was different. In these precincts, the vote was still coming in anti-lockdown. So even if they had enough and their vote margin shrunk, it was not going to be enough. It could tighten it a little bit, but it could not overcome. So my point is, he positioned himself anti-lockdown. He did it from the start. So he positioned himself the fighter for the small business that were dying. I went to Vegas. I went to Nevada just before it reopened. There was pain. Pain. The rates at the hotels were so low, they were letting in the crack crew. Mm-hmm. Nobody's here. Wynn dropped his rates. Trump dropped their rates. Let's get a room there instead of where they would have usually gotten a room, which was Junktown. And yes, it's legal, but I'm telling you, when you walk around where all the beautiful restaurants are so supposed to be at the Met, and it's just the open smell of reefer everywhere. It's the open smell of skunk. It was a different crowd. The businesses were hurting. They could not afford much more of this. PPP or no PPP. Payroll protection program worked, but there's only so much you can do. Wynn used to pride himself on never dropping his rates low. Not like everybody else. Because he wanted a certain crowd. He'd rather not rent certain rooms than allow a certain crowd in his casinos and his hotels. I mean, that was not, and he had, even that hotel had been different. The crowd was different.
I love how you said it.
I mean, so what I'm saying.
It was a whole lot of special.
It was and the problem from the business's point of view is that the riffraff may now be able to hook up a room and this hotel, but they can't afford to really live and stay there. Not live there. I mean, like, they can't afford to stay there. They can afford to sleep there, but it's very different. Can you go buy a $200 steak from Wolfgang Puck? Can you go and buy a $200 steak from, what was it? D3, S3, whatever. Wherever the hell it is.
Yes.
Robert took us. You can't. So you're not helping them by filling the rooms with those people. And they were done. They were done. They're like, this town, if it doesn't open soon, it may not come back.
I don't see New York coming back. They're trying to open up now.
You had friends from where Joey lives come to Vegas to meet with us and have dinner with us. It's a pretty big drive, and they almost never go out there at this time. They said, it was not great before, but now during the shutdown, people who were like residents didn't want to risk walking certain streets.
Riffraff is out.
I mean, yeah.
No other.
It's just a tragedy, because when you economically depress an area, you destroy the community in so many ways. In so many ways. And its history. In so many ways. It's not just, the jobs go away or the business go. It's so many multiple levels of human destruction and tragedy.
I mean, you guys seen it. You know those places that you see that are all boarded up and nobody remembers what it used to be. And it's a sad story.
Like California. I want to show you something here, and I'm going to take a sip of coffee here. I want to show you guys something. Okay? This is the recall election in a liberal district of California. Or I'm arguing that it really isn't that liberal anymore. Did you hit my thing? Yeah, you sure did. And that when the boundaries, when the census changes, it is possible, very possible. Let me take this clock away so you guys can see. It is very possible that a few points, this will get a few points more Republican. That this district is going to take from California 21. This is California 16. And that this district will take 3 to 5 point Republican vote off of David Valadao, whatever your hack last name is. And he's done. And what we're doing is polling the district and polling. We're doing this in several places. This is the current district as the boundaries see fit. This is the potential district as most people believe it to be. And we're trying to, that's what we're doing here, and measuring the change to measure, or really to identify where there is potential for really both parties. All right, so where will it be better for Democrats? Where will it be better for Republicans? Let me sip the coffee and we'll go over it. Hang on tight. 5-second break.
That was longer than 5.
And I still didn't swallow. I wanted a 2-sip 5-second break and I couldn't do it. So now we know Rich can only sip once every 3 minutes. All right, every 3 seconds. If the recall election were held today, would you vote yes to remove Gavin Newsom from office, or no, to keep him in office. And I don't have the prompt in front of me. I wish I did. I should have wrote the prompt on there. But it generally says, there's you may or may not be aware of an ongoing effort to recall Governor Gavin Newsom for mismanagement, for what critics call mismanagement of the coronavirus response, for what critics cite as COVID-19 response and mismanagement of the state overall. Democrats call it a purely partisan effort, but nevertheless, it's moving forward. If the recall election were held today, would you vote yes to remove Gavin Newsom from office, or no to keep him in office? Okay, so incredibly here, and I am so blind. Hold on one second. I mean, this is so pathetic. This is so freaking pathetic, Laura.
I saw you trying.
I've got to go to first. I got to go. Every year you get a pair of glasses from the VA if you're my rating. I got to go to get a new pair of glasses, and I got to go to a private doctor and get contacts. All right, because this is unless the VA can give them, I'll pay for them, but unless they can do that too, give me my glasses plus because I am freaking blind. This is abysmal. Anyway, 42% would vote yes to remove him. 34% would vote no to keep him. In California 16, Gavin Newsom is down 8 points. In California 16, folks, this survey is, the district itself is only supposed to be like D plus 9. The survey is D plus 14. All right? I'm telling you, there aren't enough Republicans in the sample to get to 42%. 25% are undecided. Why is that? Well, we asked them. Candidate viability. Republicans have not put forward a viable alternative. So here you have 42% base in a liberal district. Jim Costa won by roughly 20 points over a totally incompetent and disastrous GOP establishment candidate. And they're trying to repeat that mistake now instead of picking the better candidate because they're stupid. Anyway. Oh, can I use the word retarded now since Chuck Schumer did without, he said retarded children, and he was just completely allowed to get away with it. Well, Politico called it an arcane reference or something.
Well, you have to remember.
Could you imagine if Donald Trump said, you retarded child? Could you imagine if Donald Trump said retarded child? Without, because I have used the word before myself, but I meant it with like the legitimate definition, right? Could you imagine? Remember when they accused him of making fun of a New York Times reporter who was handicapped, and that is not what he was doing? That was fake news. Look at how visceral the attacks were against him for that. Could you imagine if he actually said retarded kid?
It'd be no bueno.
Oh my God. Anyway, candidate viability is the issue here in California. The recall, in some polling, appears to be slipping the recall effort. I had been saying this for months, and it's what I've been trying to tell somebody who's been wrestling with whether or not he would run. There is no viable alternative. There are a lot of Trump people behind Bruce Jenner. Excuse me. I'm not even going to wade into that territory. You're not taking my truth from me. You're not taking my truth from me, so we can just agree to settle on Jenner. All right? Anyway, there are a lot of people behind Jenner. The appearance of The View, Don Smith is right. If Don Smith's a communication guy, he would know stuff. He was absolutely right. That was a disaster. Don, I think, gave him a C-. That was a disaster. How if you are surrounded by Team Trump, you are not prepared for the question about, do you think it was stolen? The election was stolen? If you're not prepared for that, then you're not ready for prime time. Jenner had a fantastic answer on transgender in sports. But terrible answer on The View about Donald Trump and whether the election was stolen. Either way, people aren't seeing this as viable. At least not right now. They're not seeing this candidacy as viable. They want a viable alternative, and Democrats know that if there was a viable candidate, they could have a real problem here. That's why they're trying to bump up the recall even earlier. All right, which, you know, that's the problem with one-party rule. Then they start making laws and rules that keep them in power permanently. Mm-hmm. That's why there should never be one-party rule. In any event, we strictly ask, do you always? Is that because you always vote on a partisan basis for the candidate who reflects your view for that party over and over again? Or would you say that you mostly vote for your party, that, you know, for your preferred party, because they best represent your view, but you could, any candidate, any party candidate could earn your vote? Or is it because you vote party line because there's no viable alternatives? And the reason why, overwhelmingly, Jim Costa keeps winning by the margin he keeps winning by, why Gavin Newsom is so many of these districts, is because Republicans have submitted to one-party rule in the state of California. Or at least the old Republican Guard. They have resigned to it, right? Mm-hmm. They have resigned to Orange County and the surrounding area being the only defendable area, and they shouldn't go on the offense anywhere else. And that's really
dumb, because
that's stupid.
County used to lead red.
It's, you know, demographically it's changed quite a bit. Yeah, but Democrats didn't quit when Cali was red. Did Democrats ever stop?
No.
Right. I mean, the bottom line is they play everywhere, and Democrats play everywhere. Republicans do not, and the old Republican Guard is playing. Sun Tzu, everybody understands, and the same applies to politics. You cannot just resign to defending an ever-shrinking slice of pie, all right, slice of territory, because eventually they're just going to keep chipping away at that territory while you're on defense, and you're going to be done. You'll be eliminated. You'll be destroyed. And that is what is happening in California. The Republican establishment is too stupid to understand that. They don't get it. And districts like this and others in the surrounding area, they just try to find the people who have the most amount of money because they don't want to have to spend the party money in those areas. That, because people ask me this question all the time. Why do they do that? Why do they back Paul Young in Michigan 8 instead of Mike Dittmer when Paul Young is not even from Michigan 8, hadn't lived there in months, and certainly isn't going to be the strongest candidate when he can't win Livingston County? The answer is they throw away a lot of these districts. Look, Abigail in Virginia 7, Texas 15, Wisconsin 3. These were all districts that could have been flipped, but were not flipped because Republicans were just hoping to push out the better candidates, to find candidates who could self-fund or could raise on their own. They don't want to have to waste their money on new targets. They are dinosaurs. They're dinosaurs. You pick the best candidate. You support them as much as you can. You run on unity tickets. You keep your message concise, clear, and without conflict. And that is how you ride together, you die together. Mm-hmm. That's it. And you stay on offense. Offense, offense, offense. Bruce Lee, what's the best defense? Offense. Sun Tzu, offense. Offense, offense, offense. These are cowards who defend with their arms up in the fetal position in the corner like a bunch of little Marys. Mm-hmm. That's what you got running the party right now. 6 months ago, they were wearing diapers on their nose. That's how much they go on offense. 6 months ago, they were wearing diapers on their nose on Zoom calls. 6 months ago, they were wearing diapers on their noses in their cars. This is where the Republican Party stands. So they can't even take out a deeply unpopular governor. And by the way, California voters statewide and in these districts are starting to sour on Newsom's high-speed rail project. It's not that they don't want one. It's just that this damn thing keeps coming at a higher price tag. When they were first told about it, they were told it would cost, 10, 20 billion, something like that, right? It's now close to $100 billion. And voters are just like, you know what, enough. We're even asking voters whether or not they support federal money for high-speed rail. Do you want your representative in your district, and we say it like that because we're in different districts, to bring home money from the federal government for the high-speed rail? They don't want it. Basically, what the hell? What are you talking about? How did this thing go from 20 to $80 billion? We started this project in California, and some of it is for clients, but we started this project in California after an associate of mine, associate, and I were looking at amendment results, propositions from the 2020 ballot. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, California's supposed to be so damn blue. It's a D plus 30 state. D plus 25 state. How did this amendment go down? How did this amendment go down? How did this proposition for higher taxes to pay for this go down? How did all of this fail? In some cases by significant margins. If it's such a liberal state. Doesn't make any sense to me. So we decided to go out and see how much voters in California are aware of where each party stands on the issues. And as it turns out, especially newer voters, and I don't mean newer by younger, I mean newer to the political process. Democrats have gotten a hold of them first, and they've done them a service to their party, but a disservice to the voter. And now Republicans can break that cycle, but they have to begin to build relationships, personal relationships with these voters. Because Democrats have begun that process. So if you have a relationship, let me explain this in a simple way that makes sense to any human. If you have a friend, a good friend, someone you know well, and you have a history with, you don't know it, but they're doing you wrong. Someone you just met and you don't trust, you don't know what to make of them yet, you may even suspect that they dislike you as a person. Maybe because of the color of your skin or where you live. True or not, fair or not, irrelevant. But either way, you don't know them and you suspect these things about them, and they come up and they tell you that your friend, your good friend, that you've known for so long is lying to you. Would you believe them? It's that simple. The answer is no. You would say, I don't know you. The hell do you think you are? Don't talk about my friend like that. I've known them for how many plus years? I don't know you from Adam. Go back where you came from and don't talk trash about my friends. I'm loyal. That's what you tell them. So I don't know what makes anyone who's watching, or the stupid Republican consulting class, or the bigger dummies who hire them in the Republican establishment, think that any amount of money, or any TV ad, or any radio ad, or any Facebook ad, talking about policy or whatever, I don't know what makes any of you fools think that's going to work. You have not begun the process of building personal relationships with people and communities that you have otherwise been abandoning, been ignoring, and have not been planning to earn their vote for years. You think it's going to be some miracle that they're all of a sudden going to trust you? You either are stupid or
want to.
Or you want to believe it, or maybe, like Don and I say, many of you, just especially in the consultant class, just don't give a damn. You're getting rich. You're getting rich.
Money talks.
Doesn't matter if David Dudenhofer goes down, 30 plus points in Wayne County.
You got your paycheck.
They got loaded off that campaign. Rashida Tlaib was unpopular. They got to raise a ton of money. Everybody got fat. And the candidate went down in flames. Did they go and reach out to new communities? No. Maybe that's not their goal. You ever consider that base voters? Average Americans? Their goal isn't even to win. It's to get rich. Look at Steve Schmidt. Look at Rick Wilson.
Preach it.
Look at John Weaver. They don't give a damn whether or not they ripped off their donors or they had effective ads in Florida. They claim to be, to raise all of that money to flip Florida for Joe Biden. Instead, Joe Biden got beaten by the biggest margin in the state of Florida in nearly 2 decades.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Sorry. It was after an hour, you turn around.
Actually,
it was like
it
45
might be,
minutes, right?
It might be more than that. I think Bush only won it by 2.4.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
Barack Obama was
you called
2.4.
Florida,
45 minutes.
minutes tops. And I was like, no.
That was a serious bludgeoning.
That was...
3 points may not sound like a lot in the state of Florida, but it's a huge victory.
Hey, speaking of news...
It's a bigger victory than Obama's over McCain in 08. Let me let you process that for a moment. Barack Obama won the state of Florida in 08. He won it in 12 too, but he only won it by 67,000 votes.
In 08, it was big.
Donald Trump defeated Joe Biden in the state of Florida in 2020 by a bigger margin than Barack Obama beat John McCain in 08 with a much less white and far more Hispanic electorate. Marinate on that for a moment. Marinate on it. 12 years later, 13 years later, whatever, Florida is a much less white state, much browner, even blacker.
Yeah.
And yet Donald Trump still spanks Joe Biden by a bigger margin than Barack Obama beat John McCain, and he loses the Electoral College.
Yeah, okay.
Marinate on that for a second. I just wanted them to marinate on it. Just marinate on it, folks. And by the way, it was the closest a Republican has come to winning Miami-Dade since George W. Bush in 04.
Yep.
And George W. Bush had a much whiter, much whiter Miami-Dade. Marinate on that. And let's just throw in that unlike many of the other states that didn't hold for the president, Florida was not the Wild West. Florida didn't breach integrity deadlines. Florida didn't sacrifice signature verification. Florida didn't allow ballots to come in postmarked days and days after the election. And on and on and on. Essentially, Florida did not allow COVID to destroy their long-standing laws and procedures that are meant to preserve the integrity of an election, which they put in place on a bipartisan basis after the hanging Chad debacle of 2000, Bush v. Gore. And Donald Trump's vote margin in Broward County, compare it from 16 to 20. Let me ask you a question. Is it possible Donald Trump did better in Broward and Palm because Brenda and Linda weren't there anymore? And that they were being watched? They knew the Attorney General had an open investigation. The Attorney General had an open investigation on them. It was being shared widely that they probably had agents in their areas.
They had to kick down the door.
I'm talking
remember?
about, yeah, but I'm talking about the attorney. They were telling them that you should watch your back because we have people right next to you counting ballots and you don't even know it. So that was, the pressure was on there.
Yeah, it was.
It was on there. Media forgets to tell you all about that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so
it doesn't fit the narrative.
It just doesn't fit their narrative. All right, with that.
But what I wanted to say,
go ahead.
real quick,
Yep. You go.
So when we were talking about Newsom, I tried to drop this in, but you kept talking.
Go ahead. I'll
okay.
put it up again.
Lemon Minty, right, announced that morning KFI.
Oop, I'm sorry. I hit that morning what?
Sorry. Morning KFI AM 640 radio announced that California is saying Newsom recall has to happen in September now because
that's what I'm saying.
Because there's not enough paper ballots, enough paper for the ballots.
They should push it back even a little bit more to give Republicans.
Enough paper?
Yeah. Well, they were too busy, Lemon Minty, printing out all of those ballots in November. Look, do I have? I didn't blur out this new one. We have images from all over the country. Mm-hmm. We ask people to send them to us. I have so many, I don't even know. It's got to be in the hundreds, if not thousands. Mm-hmm. One in California that was sent to me is particularly bad. It is all of the absentee ballots. These aren't requests. These are official ballots. Folks, when I tell you that this is every record who has lived at that address in California over probably 4 decades. I don't even want to I'm not exaggerating. How many ballots did that household receive? 18? Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. And they took a picture and they sent it to me. I just went through it and I'm trying to blur out names. And then I realized I shouldn't be blurring out names. I should be blurring out the address. But then people will accuse me of fudging that. So I don't know exactly how to put this one photo out without, because I don't want to expose this person. I don't want them to get a brick through their window because they're not they're not political. This is not a political person. They just had it shared. They were telling somebody about it. And somebody said, oh, you should watch the People's Pundit. You should, this guy with a YouTube podcast. And he's been talking about this, and the media calls him, says he's fake and fact checks him. But you got it. You should send this to him. So I get this email, and it's like, oh, I hope I got the right place. Is this the People's Pundit? My name is so-and-so. I just wanted to show you this. And I'm like, yeah, send it over. I thought it was BS. Yeah. Oh, look, we've seen how many? 6, 8. I've seen a lot. When there are only 2 or 3 eligible voters still living at that residence. So I've seen it where it's 2 or 3 different households, move-ins, move-outs, gotten it. I have never seen this many. This was her entire coffee table, and it's all over the place. And she laid them out so I could see it's every name. Different is different. And folks, that's why they're out of ballot. That's why they're out of paper. In California. I mean, let's see. Do I still have it up? Let me see. One more. That's 12:40. Yeah, it's ended. It'll take a long time. Maybe I could do it real quick. Come on. Reload.
Oh, Lord.
I just want to tell them the difference between the records and the... All right. There are over... Let me explain to you. That there are over in the state of California 23,121 records. It's 23,121,864. When you exclude change of address flags, and it takes over 2 million right off the top. Over 2 million right off the top. Yet everybody who was on this, change of address flag or not, received those ballots. So understand. And then I don't even know. God knows how many deceased probably, because that's, again, the voter file is always going to underestimate how many change of address flags there are and how many deceased there are, because our system is imperfect and it falls behind. The system lags. Somebody moves, the last thing you do is call your old secretary, a supervisor of election, and tell them that you've left. Please remove my name from the voter file. The last thing you do is put a change of address flag in and ensure it gets to the National Voter File Database, you know. And you certainly, after you lose a loved one, you do not call the supervisor of election or the county registrar or the county recorder or whatever you call it in your area. You don't say mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whatever, my brother, my sister, my wife, my kin of any kind died. Can you please remove them from the voter file? So they're always behind. It is always more than what we show you because we don't have the ability to keep pace with it. So it's over 2 million change of address flags alone in California, which means probably 4 million, 3 million. Who knows? Who knows? Who the hell knows? And that's the point. All right. With that in mind, we're going to go. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and do it. Subscribe to People's Pundit Daily YouTube channel, which is going to turn to peoplespundit.tv very soon, by the way. We're almost there. Hit that notification bell, and that'll let you know when we're going to go live. You can support the public polling project. The link is down below in the description. Don't forget to leave a comment and leave us your thoughts on what you'd like to see. But if you want to be involved in building the surveys for the public polling project, then join the People's Pundit Locals community. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. We have periodic Zoom meetups. We've been doing it weekly. We missed last week. We're going to do it tomorrow or Friday. Thursday. What did people say? I tried to do it for Tuesday, but people were like, later in the week. Either Thursday or Friday. We'll put it up there, though. If you're a member of the Locals community, you'll see it because we are going to do one this week. And then, of course, what's the last? Voter analysis. You get a load of other stuff that I do that we have been doing for a while, but I never really made public. And I wanted to share that with the Locals community. We put out Maine. We put out the Midwest. We're going to Nevada next. You'll see that, and you'll have that today. Okay? So, Locals members will have that today. We'll do age. We'll add age. We'll add religion. We'll add even inferred education, maybe. We'll do a slew. We'll go by congressional district as well as statewide for Nevada. All right? Given to, stay up with the prescient news of Joey Chestnut Joey Gilbert jumping in the race. Joey Chestnut, the eating champion.
I was like,
Nicola, my son, he
Nicola.
Loves Jaws.
Yeah.
He loves him. And I had him in my head. All right, so with that, we're going to go. Follow me on Twitter, @peoples_pundit. And we will see you soon. Tomorrow, Friday, depending which mode you'll be on. All right? All the best, folks. I'll leave you with the soothing sounds of the Bone Band. Special thanks to the Bone Band for the excellent theme song, Bad Habit. All the best, folks. Again, thank you so much for all the support. We love you for it. See you soon. Be safe.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for knives to give in to the need and leave it all behind. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before for the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Perfect timing.